Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back. I'm really pleased with the results of this weekend stream this past Saturday. For those who don't know, Bdubzs was kind enough to spend some of his time with us. I had a stream on Twitch where essentially Bdubzs was there to take all comers. People dropped their signs at Old Wolf, soul level 125, and everybody had a chance to fight Bdubzs. And I think for the most part, the folks that showed up had an opportunity to fight him at least 3 or 4 times each, and I hope that's the case, and I certainly hope that everybody that wanted to fight him had an opportunity to fight him. We also had some of the tryhards of the community show up. SkipToMyNash here, and I'm actually going to be featuring some duels with him here, you'll see in a moment. Oro showed up, Varzir showed up, G9 was there as well, although G9 did not have an opportunity to play. The fights were really great. They went about how I expected. I don't think anybody beat Bdubzs aside from some of the other tourney players that were there. I think Oro beat him once, Varzir beat him once, I think SkipToMyNash beat him a handful of times. But we really had a great time, and I know outside the stream, some players were picking up one another's signs and having some fights outside the stream, which is really fantastic, and I was really great to see that. Or glad to see that, rather. Just an awesome time, and again, I cannot thank Bdubzs enough for the generosity of his time and being willing to help me out that way. I was really glad too to see that people were in some sense willing to put their egos in check and come fight him, and not only come fight him once, but most people there that had the time kept coming back again and again, even though they knew in all probability they were going to lose on the stream, which is again it was really awesome. It's a great learning opportunity, and it's great to see people willing to have fights they know that they probably won't win, just to get better and just to have that experience. And one of the things that I try to communicate in my videos, but probably didn't do very well, and I'm not even sure it's possible, is the experience of fighting a top tier player like that. Because you can watch me fight him and you can see the mistakes I make and you can think, well, okay, I just wouldn't make that mistake and I would be fine. But you never see the counterfactual. You never see what would happen if I had done something different. And many of the times where it looked as if I should have been doing something different, you have to remember that I did try some of those things and typically got punished for them. And so I think one of the things I was hoping to see is for a lot of folks to be able to get in there and have the same experience that I had, to feel just how good his spacing was, and his whiff punishes, and just everything about his game is so top tier. And I think a lot of people were able to have that experience. And I think, in fact, some folks were able to set up some duels outside of the stream afterward, which is just great. So anyway, overall, I thought it was a huge success. I've already had some people reaching out to me about doing another similar event. I'm all about that. So I'll be looking to plan something like that coming up soon. I think one other thing, and I'll talk more about this a little bit later in the video, obviously the focus in this Getting Good series has been fighting top tier duelists. A number of folks have asked about folks in the invasion community, people who fish, etc. I am working on that at the moment. I have some ideas planned. I think you'll like them. I just haven't been able to get any footage together just yet, but expect something like that soon. So in the meantime, obviously, until I can get those fights with some of the fish and skilled invaders from the community, I've got some fights here with SkipToMyNash. These were some of the very first fights we had. In fact, the very first fight that you saw there against him was the very first time that we'd fought. And obviously, we're just playing here till my tears break, or I would just be staring at a lot of loading screens. So he's having to get used to me a little bit and figure out kind of what my play style is, and I'm getting used to his. And just a huge thanks to Nash for a multitude of reasons. The first of which is kind of obvious. He spent time dueling with me, which was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. But he was not just playing against me, but he was specifically playing against me with an eye toward helping me improve. So he tried out a number of different builds. He is fierce with the curved sword, like terrifying with the curved sword. Felt a lot like fighting Bdubzs. I know when he played curved sword versus Bdubzs curved sword, he won a fair bit of the time. I mentioned earlier about Varzir and Oro and Nash having some wins against him. I mentioned I think Nash had a couple and Varzir and Oro had one apiece, but they also didn't have a whole lot of fights against him. So I don't want to give the impression that Bdubzs bodied them or anything. They just didn't have a lot of fights. I was happy to have those guys get in there and mix it up on stream, but at the same time, I was definitely trying to prioritize getting my stream viewers a chance to fight Bdubzs, because those guys probably fight Bdubzs, or at least players of his caliber, quite frequently. That's how they got to be so good. So again, just trying to make sure that the people that don't typically fight top tier players get in there and do that. So anyway, thanks to Nash for his time here and his observations, and he went with a number of different builds against me, and I went with a number of different builds, and I think we fought for probably an hour and a half-ish. And you can see here he's kind of messing around and trying to get some poise on his split leaf build. Split leaf is a weapon I've mentioned before. I really don't have an answer for this build. If somebody is even remotely capable, I typically have a lot of trouble against them. And I'm not sure that there is a really good answer against this build. But you can see here, I think I get bodied pretty well by Nash here. So one thing too I want to call out here is that I think our connection actually started off pretty good in the beginning when we first started playing, but it kind of got progressively worse as time went by. And of course, playing on a poor network connection in a matchup like this works to Nash's advantage. But then earlier, I think when he was using the curved sword, in some cases, I think my running attacks, they end up getting some extra phantom range. And that certainly makes life harder for him. So I know from playing some of these guys that anytime there's a fair bit of latency, it impacts their ability to space, and obviously it impacts my ability as well. But because they're so much better, I think the impact is more so to them than to me. So I think I probably, like the curved sword, I know, for example, like when I play Bdubzs, if we have a really good network connection, then it's a lot easier for him to punish my rolls on reaction. And anytime he can punish rolls on reaction, or Nash can with the curved sword, it's really extra terrifying. And he did a fair bit of that to me, but again, as the network connection kind of degraded, it was harder for him to do that, and I was able to get away with some shit that normally would have definitely gotten punished. So as we were playing, we were voice chatting, which was insanely helpful, and Nash was just dropping knowledge bombs left and right, making observations about my gameplay. And he asked me, what was I really trying to do? Get better. It's kind of vague. And one of the things that I mentioned was that I was trying to be more aggressive. And he had a really interesting observation. He noted that while I describe my current play style as more passive, he said aggressive really isn't the opposite of passive. That there's some kind of in betweens. And man, he caught me with that straight sword weapon art so many times, even though I was looking for it. I don't know what the deal was, but for whatever reason, he just baited me into rolling and getting roll caught by that thing, and there I'm finally kind of catching on, and he doesn't get me with it. But he gave me an ass beating with the straight sword more than a few times. And I'm not going to show them all because it would get kind of boring, but you can see this is fairly representative here. But anytime somebody's got a shield and knows how to space in time, and I'm not that good with a greatsword, I'm certainly no G9, and so he's just able to space me out, punish my whiffs, and just absolutely decimate me. But anyway, he observed that really there's a lot of space between kind of being aggressive and being passive. And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think essentially what he was getting at is that the part of the way you can play is to hang back, kind of learn your opponent's tendencies, but then when you have an advantage, press it. And that is certainly something that historically I have not done very well, although I've gotten better at it. Playing these guys has helped me to recognize when I have an opening and to kind of keep pressing it. And I know that these guys do that to me a lot. And that certainly has helped me get to be a better player. So kind of, I think, related to that, he made a number of other observations. One of these I'd kind of already realized, especially when I was playing against Bdubzs, is I would kind of go, and there's that roll catch again, I would go into like defensive mode. So if Bdubzs were pursuing me with the curved sword, I would just kind of be real passive and try to wait and reaction roll his curve sword, but Bdubzs knew that that's what I was doing. And so then he could really bully me, get in my face, and start with the L1 waggles and try to force a panic roll, usually successfully, and then on reaction, roll catch, get put in the blender again and again, and repeat. And obviously in some of those cases, I would have been better advised to have attacked him instead. In fact, Silly Dog and I were actually discussing this, that, the optimal play when he's in your face and he's L1 waggling, the optimal play is obviously he's looking for you to roll and he's looking to roll catch. So you should attack him. And that's clear enough. And I agree to some extent that is true. But the problem is that works one time. Then the next time he's looking for that. And so maybe he doesn't waggle and he just hits you. And by the way, did you successfully differentiate the waggle from the actual attack? Because you don't have a whole lot of time to do that. And so because these really skilled players, one thing that they do so well is they read you and they adapt to you. They figure out what you're about, they figure out your tendencies, and then they ruthlessly exploit them. And so you have to learn to be really unpredictable. And that's very difficult to do when you have a player that's so skilled, because you've got all your mental effort focused on not panic rolling and making sure you mind your spacing. And so it just takes a lot of repetition. And here you can see I had switched up to the greatsword and we had some fights, or I'd switched up specifically to the onyx blade, looking for a bit more reach than I was getting from the claymore. And Nash was going with the ultra build. And you can see here he's kind of going for the G9 strats, which certainly I don't want to say they're like unique to him. I definitely ran into that strat at Pontiff, the whole roll at people and then mix up the rolling R1 versus the standing R1. And if you roll expecting the rolling attack, then you're going to get caught most likely by the standing R1. But I don't know if this is a build that he typically uses. I kind of have the sense that it's not. I think this is really probably more for my benefit, just to help me learn against certain different builds, and also to help him sort of assess my skills in confronting different build types. And you can see he really just mixes up the rolling attacks really well. Here I end up switching over to an S stock. But kind of going back, I was in defensive mode too often, and the answer to just start attacking, definitely well taken, and I should be doing more of that. And you can see here I'm obviously trying to go for some reads and see if I can read any of his rolling attacks and get a lucky parry. But I think you just have to temper that knowledge of attacking when somebody's trying to force a panic roll with the idea that if you do that consistently, they're going to get a read on you and they're going to start punishing that. You can see here with the S stock, it's a bit different. I was able to adapt to him a bit better. I definitely had more luck here. I think the latency there got me a little bit. I thought I hit confirm that before he got into his hyper armor. Another thing that he mentioned that I hadn't really thought about, but I thought was really good, or a really good point, is how I typically don't have a plan after my running attack. So especially like when I was playing against Bdubzs with the hand axe and then the 4-prong plow, when I would hit Bdubzs with the 4-prong plow, I didn't really do anything afterward. And it was partly because there wasn't really anything safe for me to do afterward. If I went for the 4-prong plow standing R1, I would get easily interrupted by the curved sword, and I get outspaced by his curved sword if I go for the hand axe. But in fairness, I should have been trying those things more often. The fact that I never ever did anything after the running R1, that's an easy read for Bdubzs, and he knows that he can then go on the offensive straight away after I hit one of those. Here you can see Nash going with the washing pole, and I remember he busted this out, and I was kind of like, oh man, I really typically don't do well against the washing pole. And in fairness, it's been a long time since I fought a good washing pole player. I mean, it may have been like a year since anyone really used this. But he made some really good points. He said, look, the washing pole can't really pressure up close. The only pressure that this thing really has is in the running attack. So as long as you avoid the running attack, then you're going to be in good shape. And he was absolutely right. And I think he bodied me a few times with the washing pole here, and that sort of that L2 hold definitely baited me into panic rolling more than a few times. But I did start to adapt. And once I started thinking about what he was saying, the fact that the pressure really comes up from this weapon, from the running attack, that when he's up close, he can't really pressure me the same way. It really opened my eyes. And you hear he's kind of being cheeky and throwing out some parries, and he did get one on me. It was kind of funny, but I'm also trying to make sure that I don't let those parries dissuade me from piling on some good aggression. Overall, though, we had a lot of fun, or at least I certainly had a lot of fun. I certainly hope Nash had fun too. I've been working on getting some duels set up with some other folks from the sort of tournament community, both for the purpose of making videos, but maybe most importantly, of course, I'm trying to get better. I am trying to step up my game. And I can tell you that even just watching videos of my gameplay from a couple of weeks ago, I can see the improvements. I can feel the improvements. It's just been really gratifying to have this kind of loop of fighting really good players. Again, I think there'll be some videos coming up with some folks from the fishing community. I had a really interesting experience the other day, stream sniping, entry invalid. I'll be talking more about that and his co-op partner. And then after that, I'm going to have some videos with those guys. And I'm being vague about with whom I'm going to be making these videos. I think it's going to be kind of a fun surprise. And then I'm probably going to do some sort of like recap video. I have some interesting thoughts I want to share. I think that was probably a missed bundle right there. But when I say interesting thoughts, there's been a lot of discussion about the tryhard duelist community versus the tryhard invasion community, and kind of which is better, which is more difficult, etc. And I'm sure there'll be a lot to talk about there, guys. So thanks so much for stopping by, and take care now.